Welcome back to Rapture Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Zara Whitfield had learned early that life did not always reward goodness, but she refused to let her circumstances kill her spirit. At 26, she lived within the chaotic slum of Bariga, a place where noise was constant, poverty was loud, and survival was an art. Every morning she woke up on the rough pavement behind Mrs. Charlotte Bryant's food stall, brushing sand off her worn jacket before helping to set up tables. Bariga smelled of sweat, burning tires, and pepper stew. Its roads were lined with hawkers shouting prices, motorcycles weaving dangerously between gutters, and loudspeakers from churches competing with each other. Yet in the midst of this chaos, Zara held on to her identity like a hidden jewel. She had once been someone important, a brilliant tech innovator known for her exceptional coding skills and clean, futuristic designs. But that life had been stolen from her the day Ethan Cooper, her ex-fiancé, drained their joint account, framed her for fraud at their startup, and vanished. Her reputation collapsed in one night. Tech blogs dragged her name, investors cursed her, and no company would hire her afterwards. Bariga became her refuge by force, not choice. Still, she helped the weak, protected the bullied, and shared what little she had. Her pain only refined her kindness. In another part of Lagos, miles away from Bariga's chaos, Damian Lawson started his morning in silence, a silence so sharp it echoed through his penthouse like a reminder of everything he lost. As the billionaire CEO of Lawson Tech, his days were carefully structured. Wake at 5 a.m., train, review reports, fire off orders, and pretend the world didn't feel meaningless. Damian lived in a world of glass walls, marble floors, and expensive stillness, but the emptiness always followed him. He once believed in love, in vulnerability, in having a partner who saw him beyond the billions and the empire. But Olivia Harrington destroyed that belief. She had been his fiancée, gorgeous, educated, adored by the media. But behind closed doors, she had used him, drained him emotionally, and cheated on him with one of his board members. Damian buried the scandal, ended the engagement, and built emotional walls so tall he forgot how sunlight felt. He had money, influence, and power, yet nothing felt enough. He lived without joy, without purpose, without meaning. And though he didn't know it yet, his carefully calculated world was about to collide with Zara Whitfield's in the most explosive way possible. Damian Lawson's presence in Bariga was a fluke, an accident shaped by fate itself. That afternoon, he had left a board meeting feeling suffocated, exhausted by pretentious conversations and empty compliments. He ordered his driver to take him through a different route, wanted to breathe air that wasn't recycled through luxury vents. But halfway down the unfamiliar road, his Rolls-Royce developed a mechanical fault. The driver panicked, the car stalled, and Damian stepped out to make a call, frustrated and irritable. The residents of Bariga watched him like he was an alien descending from another planet. His expensive wristwatch shimmered, his tailored suit seemed out of place among cracked pavements, and his confidence drew attention he did not want. Within minutes, a group of local thugs known as the Quarry Street Gang began circling him, eyeing the car, his clothes, and especially his vulnerability. Damian, though powerful in the corporate world, knew street survival wasn't his strength. They blocked his path, asked for settlement, then pushed his driver aside. For a moment, fear flickered through his eyes. Zara saw the scene unfold from where she was serving umla at Mrs. Bryant's stall. Her instincts pricked sharply. Bariga's rules were simple. Newcomers were prey. But something about the stranger, his stillness, his quiet desperation, and the way he hid his fear, stirred something inside her. Without thinking, she stormed toward the men, her voice cutting across the noise. "Leave him alone before I remind you who you're dealing with." The Quarry Street Gang froze. Everyone in Bariga knew Zara. She wasn't physically strong, but she carried an aura that demanded respect, a woman feared for her fearlessness. After a tense moment, they hissed and grudgingly backed away. Damian exhaled, shocked. He had expected a savior, but not someone like her, ragged clothes, tired eyes, yet brave enough to confront danger without hesitation. "Thank you," he managed, his voice low. Zara shrugged coldly, refusing to be impressed by wealth or gratitude. "Next time, don't stand in the middle of Bariga like a lost tourist. People here eat men like you for breakfast." She didn't know it yet, but this single act of boldness would tie her fate to forever. Chapter 3. A dangerous turn. The Quarry Street Gang did not forget humiliation easily. Losing face in front of Bariga residents, especially because of a homeless woman, ignited a dangerous rage within them. Hours after the confrontation, Zara went behind Mrs. Bryant's shed to refill the generator with fuel, humming absent-mindedly as she worked. The alley was dimly lit, the shadows long and unsettling. She felt a shift in the air before she heard footsteps. When she turned, the gang surrounded her with wicked grins. "You embarrassed us," their leader sneered. "Now you'll pay." Zara braced herself. Fear gripped her chest, but her chin lifted defiantly. She knew Bariga. She knew how fast things could escalate. She tried negotiating, tried standing tall, but their eyes were hungry for violence. Before she could move, one of them grabbed her arm roughly. At that exact moment, Damian returned to find Zara. He had intended to thank her properly, maybe even offer compensation, but what he saw froze his blood. 5 men surrounding her, mischief written across their faces. Without thinking, he rushed forward. "Oi!" he barked, his voice sharp enough to cut through the tension. The men paused, turning to him with surprise. His instincts screamed for caution, but something stronger pushed him, the need to protect the only person who protected him. In a moment of reckless desperation, he stepped beside Zara, wrapped his arm around her waist, pulled her close, and kissed her. The gang went silent. The entire alley stilled. "She is my wife," Damian roared, his voice ringing with authority and fury. "Touch her and you answer to me." Zara's eyes widened in shock, fury flashing within them. But the gang, intimidated by the billionaire's boldness and the unexpected claim, backed away slowly before disappearing into the shadows. Damian released her breathlessly. Zara shoved him away. "Are you insane?" she snapped. And that was the moment everything began to change. Chapter 4. The viral storm. Zara stormed away from Damian, her heart pounding from the kiss she never asked for and the humiliation that followed. She wasn't angry because he touched her. She was angry because his impulsive action invited a world of complications. Bariga's residents were gossip machines. She knew by morning the entire slum would be buzzing. Damian tried to apologize, but she waved him off, leaving him in the dim alley, breathless and conflicted. But destiny wasn't finished with them. At the moment Damian kissed her, a street boy had filmed the scene and uploaded it online. Within an hour, the clip had gone viral. Billionaire CEO Damian Lawson seen kissing unknown homeless woman in Bariga slum. Twitter exploded. Instagram reposted it. Blogs used cropped frames of Zara's face. Everyone demanded answers. By nightfall, Damian's PR team was calling nonstop, and paparazzi swarmed the Koi. Damian knew he had created something unstoppable, something that threatened not just his reputation, but Zara's life. Rumors spread that the Quarry Street gang planned to attack her for making them look weak online. Concern battled with guilt inside Damian. He arrived at Mrs. Bryant's stall, insisting Zara come with him for her safety. She resisted, furious, embarrassed, and unwilling to be anyone's charity case. But when she saw the angry group approaching in the distance, she reluctantly got into his car. Damian's mansion in Ikoyi was another world entirely, marble floors, giant chandeliers. So much quiet it felt like time had stopped. Zara stood in awe, overwhelmed. Damian looked at her, steady and sincere. "Stay here until things calm down," he said gently. "You're not safe out there." She sighed, exhausted. "Fine," she muttered, "but I work for everything. No pity." Damian's lips twitched into the smallest smile. "Agreed." Chapter 5. The contracted lie the next morning. The world outside Damian's mansion was madness. Every news station replayed the viral kiss. Influencers analyzed the footage. Conspiracy theorists claimed Zara was a hired escort, and rival CEOs hinted Damian had been blackmailed. His corporate advisors demanded a press statement. Zara watched from the guest room balcony, feeling her stomach twist. She didn't want this attention. She didn't ask for any of this. Damian stood beside her, his posture tense. "We can't dodge the media," he said quietly. "They won't stop until we give them an explanation." Zara frowned. "So what now?" Damian hesitated. "We pretend, just for a while. We say we're married, temporarily, until the frenzy dies down. It protects you and stabilizes the company." Zara stared at him like he had grown horns. "You want me to fake being your wife?" "Yes," he replied, "only for a short time." Zara was torn between anger and logic. His plan was ridiculous, but strangely brilliant. Declaring their marriage publicly would stop media speculation, discourage the gang from harassing her, and prevent further gossip. But it also meant diving into Damian's elite world, a world that despised women like her. She crossed her arms. If we're doing this, I earn my stay. You don't get to treat me like a pet project. Damian nodded immediately. Name your conditions. Zara met his eyes firmly. Respect, boundaries, and no more impulsive kisses. Damian's ears burned with embarrassment. Fair enough, he murmured. They both knew the lie would complicate everything, but neither foresaw just how intense the storm ahead would be. Their first test came faster than expected. A crowd of reporters waited outside Lawson Towers, their cameras flashing as Damian's convoy pulled up. Zara, dressed in clothes borrowed from the mansion staff, felt painfully out of place as she stepped out. But Damian didn't give her a chance to doubt herself. He reached for her hand, firmly, confidently, and led her into the building. In the crowded hall, a podium stood ready. Journalists buzzed with excitement, whispering theories. When Damian appeared, the room fell silent. His voice was calm, authoritative, and unshakably protective. "This is Zara Whitfield," he announced, his hand resting on the small of her back. "She is my wife, and anyone who disrespects her disrespects me." The statement hit the room like thunder. Zara's breath caught. Even though it was a lie, the conviction in his voice felt strangely real. For the first time, Zara saw Damian not as a billionaire, but as a man, one who could command empires with a single sentence. Reporters erupted with questions, but Damian shielded her from the chaos, guiding her back to the car with unwavering resolve. As they drove back, Zara looked out the window, her heart full of questions she didn't dare ask. Why did he speak with such passion? Why did he sound like he meant every word? Damian, from the other side of the car, stole a glance at her. He knew he was in dangerous territory. This fake marriage was supposed to fix a problem, not create new feelings. Yet the image of Zara standing beside him, small, brave, and dignified, kept replaying in his mind. He didn't know it yet, but the line between truth and lie had already begun to blur. The elite dinner party was supposed to be a simple performance, a chance to reinforce the fake marriage story. But nothing about the evening was simple. Zara walked into the grand ballroom wearing a modest navy gown chosen by Mrs. Bryant, her posture stiff and uncertain. Damian stayed close to her, guiding her through a room filled with wealthy socialites, CEOs, and celebrities who whispered behind jeweled fingers. She held her chin high, but inside she felt like an imposter among gods of wealth. The room glimmered with chandeliers, golden cutlery, and cold, polished faces. Then Zara saw her, Olivia Harrington, Damian's ex-fiancée, stunning, blonde, poised, and dressed in a shimmering silver gown. Olivia approached with a smile that could freeze fire. "Damian," she purred, ignoring Zara entirely. "It's been so long." Damian stiffened. "Olivia." Then her eyes flicked to Zara. A slow, cruel smile curved her lips. "Zara Whitfield," she said, her voice dripping sweet poison. "I remember you. The tech girl with that failed startup. What was it called? Nova Bridge? Weren't you involved in some fraud scandal?" Zara felt the blood drain from her face. Olivia leaned closer. "I suppose even billionaires get bored and need charity cases." Damian's jaw clenched. "Enough," he snapped quietly. Olivia lifted her brows. "Touchy, are we?" "Don't worry, Zara. Secrets always come out. They always do." With a graceful turn, she walked away, leaving Zara trembling. Damian placed a hand on Zara's back. "Don't listen to her," he whispered. But the damage was already done. The ghosts of Zara's past had returned, and they were vicious. The days after the party were quieter, but emotionally heavier. Zara spent more time in the mansion, discovering the strange loneliness of luxury. Damian, in return, found himself drawn to her presence in ways he couldn't explain. He watched her right at the balcony, her fingers moving softly across the pages of the journal he had given her, engraved with her initials, a silent gesture he hoped she would appreciate. One evening, he stood by the doorway, unnoticed, listening to her whisper her thoughts as she wrote. "Pain is loud," she murmured into her pages, "but healing is soft." Her words struck him deeply. They began to talk more, conversations about their pasts, their fears, their losses. Damian was surprised by how much she understood him, how she listened without judgment, how she seemed to see the lonely boy behind the powerful CEO. Zara, in turn, saw in Damian a man who carried scars just as deep as hers. Beneath his cold exterior was someone who craved connection but feared betrayal. One night, as they sat in the quiet living room, Damian admitted something he had never told anyone. "Sometimes I think I built this empire just to prove I wasn't worthless after Olivia." Zara looked at him, her eyes warm. "You build it because you're brilliant. Don't let a parasite rewrite your story." Damian blinked, taken aback by her fierce defense. For the first time in years, he smiled freely. Their fake marriage was beginning to feel dangerously real. The storm came without warning. Zara was in the mansion's library when Thomas Reed, Damian's loyal assistant, rushed in with panic etched across his face. "You need to see this," he said urgently. Damian's eyes darkened as he opened his phone. A headline screamed across the screen. "Billionaire Damian Lawson's wife exposed in leaked adult video. Source claims she was on a deleted platform." Zara's blood froze. Her stomach clenched with horror. The video had been from her darkest moment, years ago, when she was broke, cheated, abandoned, and manipulated into something she regretted ever since. She had tried to erase it, bury it, forget it, but now it was everywhere. Millions watched it. Millions judged her. Damian looked at her with shock, pain, confusion, fear. "Zara, is this real?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Zara felt her heart break into pieces. "Yes," she whispered, "but I was desperate, betrayed, homeless. Ethan recorded me without consent. He blackmailed me. Damian stepped back as if burned. His trauma resurfaced with brutal force. Olivia had betrayed him. Now Zara, this woman he was growing to care for, stood in front of him with a past he didn't know how to handle. Zara watched the judgment in his eyes, watched the fear, watched him shut down. "Damian," she trembled, "I'm not that girl anymore." But he couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The betrayal he once suffered rewound inside him, consuming him. Zara's tears fell silently as she whispered, "You said I was your wife." Damian looked away. "Not like this," he said, voice hollow. And the world around Zara shattered. Silence engulfed the mansion after the scandal broke. Damian disappeared into his office and shut the doors, leaving Zara alone with her shame and heartbreak. Every step she took echoed in the marble halls, a reminder that she didn't belong here, that she was nothing but a lie in a billionaire's world. She waited for Damian to come to her, to ask for the truth, to offer comfort, but he never appeared. Hours passed. Evening arrived. Zara stood outside his office door, wiping her tears, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Damian, I didn't betray you," she whispered through the door. "I was betrayed, just like you." No response, only silence, the kind that stabs like a knife. Finally, she straightened her shoulders, held her head high, and walked to the exit. If he didn't believe her, if he couldn't fight his trauma long enough to see her truth, then she refused to stay where she was unwanted. She refused to remain someone's misunderstood shame. She packed her few belongings into a small backpack and headed toward the gate. Thomas saw her and rushed after her. "Zara, wait, please. He just needs time." She shook her head. "I've spent enough of my life waiting for men to see my worth." With a final, heartbreaking inhale, Zara walked out of the mansion. Damian watched her from an upstairs window, silent, torn, and drowning in regret. But he said nothing, and Zara stepped into the night, into freedom, into pain. And, unknowingly, into her next beginning. Returning to Bariga felt like stepping back into an old wound, but this time Zara walked differently. She wasn't the same frightened woman who had once crawled here to hide from the world. Now she walked with quiet dignity, even though heartbreak clung to her like a second skin. Mrs. Charlotte Bryant gasped when she saw Zara standing outside the food stall. "Child, your eyes." "What happened?" she whispered. Zara forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Life happened, Auntie." She helped Mrs. Bryant set up the evening pots, her movements slower, her mind replaying Damian's silence like a cruel echo. Bariga noticed her return quickly. Some greeted her warmly. Others whispered about the scandal. But Zara ignored them all. She was tired of being defined by rumors, tired trying to fit into a world that spit her out twice. Later that evening, she sat under the giant mango tree behind the stall, holding the journal Damian gave her. She ran her finger over the engraved initials and closed her eyes. She couldn't hate him, not even now, but she had to move forward. When night settled, Bariga came alive with its usual chaos. children running barefoot, traders shouting, generators buzzing loudly. Zara sat on an overturned crate, staring at the sky through the branches. She remembered Damian telling her once that he admired her courage. She remembered how he smiled freely with her, how he listened without judgment, how he had told the world she was his wife even though it was a lie. And she remembered the moment he let his fear destroy her. She wiped her tears angrily. "Enough," she whispered. "Enough crying for people who break you." That night, she made a decision. She would rebuild her life, not to prove herself to Damian or anyone else, but because she deserved peace, purpose, and a future not defined by pain. The next morning, Zara sat beneath a mango tree with a piece of chalk and a cardboard box. At first, it looked like she was simply scribbling random letters to distract herself, but within minutes children began to gather around her curiously. She smiled gently. "Who wants to learn to read and write?" she asked. 5 small hands shot up, then 7, then 10. Within the hour, Zara found herself surrounded by a circle of eager faces, children hungry for knowledge in a world that rarely gave them anything. She taught them the alphabet, storytelling, simple computer concepts using improvised materials. Parents watched from the corners, surprised by her passion and patience. Soon, Mrs. Bryant brought extra benches, and the mango tree became an open-air classroom. Zara named her small initiative girls with voices, dedicated to helping young girls who felt forgotten, unseen, or left behind. It was her way of reclaiming herself, of turning her pain into something beautiful. News of her lesson spread rapidly, but Zara didn't care about recognition. She cared about the girl who whispered, "Auntie Zara, I want to be a writer like you." She cared about the teenage mother who confided she didn't know how to read. She cared about changing lives in the only way she knew, through words and compassion. Every afternoon, as she sat teaching beneath the tree, she felt her heart slowly stitching itself back together. Bariga started seeing her not as a girl from the scandal, but as a leader, a teacher, and a woman with purpose. And though Damian Lawson haunted her thoughts, she refused to let heartbreak silence her. For the first time in a long time, Zara felt herself breathe again. Not perfectly, not fully, but enough. Damian Lawson had never experienced regret the way it swallowed him after Zara left. His mansion felt emptier than ever. Her laughter no longer bounced off the walls. Her humming no longer filled the kitchen. Her presence no longer warmed the cold rooms. Damian tried working, but his focus shattered every time he pictured her tears. Thomas Reed, his loyal assistant, watched Damian's decline silently, offering gentle suggestions that Damian stubbornly ignored. Until one evening, Thomas approached him with stern expression. "You're not angry at her, sir," he said quietly. "You're angry at the part of yourself that failed to protect her." Damian froze. The words hit him harder than any scandal ever had. Later that night, unable to bear the emptiness any longer, he drove himself to Bariga. He parked far from the food stall, stepping out in casual clothes so he wouldn't attract attention. And then he saw her, Zara, sitting under the mango tree, teaching children with chalk-stained fingers and a soft smile. She looked radiant despite the hardship, glowing with purpose, strength, and resilience. Damian felt something inside him collapse. She didn't need him. She had never needed him. But he needed her more than he ever admitted. He stayed hidden in the shadows, watching her teach until the sun set. When she dismissed the children, she sat alone, writing in her journal. Damian whispered to himself, "I was wrong." His chest tightened painfully. He wanted to run to her, apologize, beg, but fear held him frozen. Fear that she wouldn't forgive him. Fear that he didn't deserve forgiveness. Fear that he had destroyed the only real connection he ever had. Standing in the dark, he finally admitted the truth. He loved her. A week passed before Damian found the courage to approach her. He waited until her afternoon class ended and the children dispersed. She was wiping chalk from her hands when she sensed someone behind her. Turning slowly, she saw Damian standing a few feet away, disheveled, tired, and unsure. Her heart thudded painfully. The man who broke her was now here, quietly trembling like a lost soul. "Zara," he whispered. She looked away, her voice steady. "You shouldn't be here." Damian swallowed hard. "I know, but I had to see you." Zara crossed her arms. "What for? Your apology? Or to finish rejecting me properly?" His shoulders slumped. "I deserve that." Zara turned fully to face him, her eyes sharp but not cruel. "You didn't trust me. After everything. You didn't trust me. Damian's voice cracked. I didn't trust myself. I saw the video, and all I saw was Olivia betray me again. I panicked. I shut down. And I hurt you. He took a step closer. I am sorry. Zara stared at him for a long, heavy moment. Sorry doesn't fix everything, she said quietly. Damian lowered his gaze. I know, but I'm here because I can't stay away from you. Not anymore. The confession pulled the air from her lungs. She closed her eyes, battling the old wound and the new longing. Damian, I'm not your responsibility, she whispered. You don't have to save me. He shook his head. I don't want to save you. I want to be with you. Their eyes met, full of unspoken memories, pain and desire. Zara didn't move forward, but she didn't step back either. They stood beneath the fading sunlight, two broken souls trying to find the courage to heal together. Though their emotions pulled them together, Zara wasn't ready to simply fall back into Damian's arms. She needed clarity. She needed space. But Damian didn't push. Instead, he began showing up quietly, bringing new books for children, helping Mrs. Bryant replace broken benches, even buying mosquito nets for families who couldn't afford them. Zara noticed it all, and part of her hated how much she noticed. One evening, she finished teaching and went into the abandoned classroom she sometimes used when it rained. Damian was waiting inside, sitting on an old desk, looking uncharacteristically vulnerable. I wanted to talk, he said softly. Zara leaned against the open doorway, arms folded. So talk. Damian looked at her with eyes stripped of pride. I don't know how to be perfect, he began. I don't know how to love without fear. But when I'm around you, I feel alive. I feel human again. Zara's breath hitched. Damian, he stood slowly, stepping closer but stopping at a respectful distance. If you tell me to walk away, I will, he whispered. But if there's even the smallest part of you that wants me here, I won't leave. Zara's walls trembled. The room was quiet except for the hum of a flickering bulb overhead. She whispered, I don't want a contract. I don't want a savior. I want someone who chooses me with understanding, not fear. Damian's voice dropped. Then teach me how. The bulb flickered again, casting warm light on them. And for the first time, Zara didn't look away. Just when things began to soften between them, Olivia Harrington returned like poison in a glass. The scandal she ignited with the leaked video hadn't satisfied her cruel hunger. She wanted Zara destroyed, erased, humiliated beyond redemption. Using her media connections, she launched a second wave of coordinated attacks, blogs, podcasts, gossip channels, all resurfacing the video and twisting the narrative until the world saw Zara as nothing but Damian's dirty secret. Damian discovered the smear campaign too late. By the time he reached Bariga to warn Zara, she had already seen the new headlines. She sat under the mango tree, staring blankly at her phone, hands trembling. Damian approached quietly. Zara. She didn't look up. I thought it was over, she whispered. I thought I was done being punished. He knelt beside her, forcing her eyes to meet his. This isn't your shame. It's theirs. Olivia's. Ethan's. The people who use your past as a weapon. Zara's voice cracked. But you still hesitated. Even after knowing what they did to me. Damian closed his eyes in pain. I know, and I hate myself for it. She stood abruptly, wiping her tears. Damian, I can't do this. I can't keep reliving the worst version of myself. He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. I need to breathe, she whispered. I need peace. Damian felt his heart crumble. Are you leaving? He asked, barely audible. Zara nodded slowly. Yes, not because I don't love you, but because I refuse to drown in someone else's fear. Damian stood frozen as she walked away, again, but this time he felt every step like a knife. Zara's departure sent Damian spiraling into a silence darker than anything he'd felt before. He tried going to work, tried focusing on meetings, but everything blurred. He stopped attending events. He stopped answering calls. The penthouse grew messier, colder, emptier. Thomas Reed eventually found him sitting in a dimly lit bar, drinking alone. Thomas sat beside him without asking. You're losing yourself, he said flatly. Damian exhaled shakily. She left because of me, because I couldn't love her properly. Thomas watched him carefully. No, she left because you wouldn't let yourself believe you deserved her. Damian looked up sharply. What do you mean? Thomas leaned in. You have spent years using fear as your compass. Fear of love, fear of betrayal, fear of being human. Zara cracked that fear. That's why you're angry. That's why you're drowning. Not because she betrayed you, but because she made you feel. Damian felt the truth hit, like a punch to the chest. I ruined everything, he whispered. But I can't let her go. Thomas nodded. Then stop sitting here. Stop waiting for someone else to fix your mess. Go after her. Not as a billionaire. Not as a man scared of shadows. But as someone who finally understands what love is. Damian sat in silence for a long moment, breathing slowly, deeply. Then he stood up, wiping his face with both hands. His voice was steady for the first time in days. You're right. I'm done hiding. When he walked out of the bar, Thomas watched with a small smile. A man who had been caged by his own past was finally ready to break free. Damian didn't go home. He didn't return to his empire. Instead, he went straight to Bariga, searching for Zara in every corner of the slum. He checked the food stall, the mango tree, the alleys, the markets. Nothing. Mrs. Bryant shook her head, sadly, when he asked. She left this morning. Didn't say where, she said softly. Damian's chest tightened. He searched for hours, his shoes covered in dust, his clothes drenched in sweat. He asked strangers, children, vendors, anyone, have you seen Zara Whitfield? But no one had answers. As night fell, he sat on a broken bench, exhausted and terrified. For the first time, he realized what true fear felt like, the fear of losing someone who wasn't just important, but irreplaceable. Finally, a teenager approached him shyly. Sir, I saw her boarding a bus earlier, he said, heading toward the old teaching center across the highway. Damian's heart leaped. He stood immediately, thanking the boy before running toward the direction indicated. When he reached the abandoned teaching center, the doors were ajar. Inside, he saw a faint light flickering through broken windows. He stepped in quietly, breathless. And there she was, Zara, sitting on the floor, surrounded by her journal pages, her face illuminated by a small lantern. She looked peaceful, heartbreakingly beautiful, lost in her thoughts. Damian's voice broke as he whispered, I have found you. Zara looked up slowly, her eyes widening. For a moment, neither spoke. The past, the pain, the love, all of it hung between them like a trembling thread. Damian stepped forward, but this time without arrogance or entitlement, only vulnerability. Zara, I've been a coward, he said quietly. I let my past rule me. I let fear destroy what we had. Zara looked at him gently. We had. Something fragile, she whispered. Something real, but you broke it. Damian nodded. I know, and I'm not here to ask for instant forgiveness. I just need you to hear me. He knelt in front of her, his voice trembling. You were the first person who saw me, the real me, not the billionaire, not the CEO, not the man Olivia hurt. You saw my soul, and I pushed you away because I didn't know how to be loved by someone so pure, so strong. Tears filled Zara's eyes. Damian continued, I don't want a perfect love. I don't want the illusion of safety. I want you, with your wounds, your past, your strength, your fire. I want to fight for you, not hide from you. Zara cupped his face gently, her thumb brushing his cheek. Damian, I've always been willing to love you, but I won't let fear be the third person in our relationship. Damian met her eyes. Then teach me to love without fear. Slowly, Zara leaned forward, their foreheads touching softly. Love isn't about perfection, she whispered. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard. Damian exhaled shakily. Then I choose you, Zara, today, tomorrow, every day after. She closed her eyes, letting his warmth melt some of the walls she had rebuilt. For the first time, their kiss, gentle, slow, honest, was not for survival, not for a lie, not for a show. It was for them. The sun rose softly through broken windows of the old teaching center, casting golden light on Zara and Damian as they sat together, hands intertwined. Their world was still complicated. The scandal still existed. The pain still lingered. But for the first time, neither felt alone. Damian stood and offered his hand with a small smile. Come with me, he said gently. Not to hide, not to perform, but to build something real. Zara looked at his hand for a moment before placing hers in it. Only if we build it together, she replied. They walked out of the center hand in hand, stepping into the morning breeze that carried the scent of hope. Weeks later, things changed in ways neither expected. Damian publicly cleared Zara's name, exposing Olivia and Ethan's manipulation with hard evidence. Zara's literacy initiative grew into a full charity foundation funded anonymously by Damian, though he insisted on crediting Zara for everything. She moved into a small apartment near Bariga so she could continue teaching, and Damian visited every day, sometimes to help, sometimes to watch her transform lives, always to love her. Their relationship blossomed slowly but beautifully, built on understanding rather than fear. Whenever Damian felt himself withdrawing, Zara held his hand and reminded him gently, "I'm here." And when Zara felt overwhelmed by her past, Damian whispered, "You're safe." One afternoon, beneath a mango tree where everything had begun, Damian looked at her with soft, unwavering eyes and said, "Zara Whitfield, will you be my wife for real this time?" Zara smiled, bright, warm, certain. "Yes," she whispered, "for real." And their new beginning began, authentic, unbroken, fearless. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.